Have you ever had a friend who you thought was your biggest supporter, only to find out they were secretly tearing you down behind your back? I have, and today I'm going to tell you the whole story. The story of how my supposed best friend launched a vicious smear campaign against me, and how I finally fought back. This isn't just about gossip. It's about betrayal, manipulation, and the long, hard road to reclaiming my own narrative. It all started subtly. A weird comment here, a cold shoulder there. I brushed it off at first. We were friends for years, since college. Let's call her Jenna. Jenna and I were inseparable. We shared everything: our dreams, our fears, our deepest secrets. Or so I thought. The first real red flag was when a mutual friend mentioned something Jenna had said about me. Something about my career choices. It was a small, cutting remark disguised as concern. When I asked Jenna about it, she laughed it off, saying it was a total misunderstanding. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was my best friend. But then, the misunderstandings started piling up. I noticed other friends becoming distant. Plans would get canceled at the last minute. When I'd walk into a room, conversations would suddenly stop. I felt this creeping sense of isolation, like I was on the outside of a joke that everyone else was in on. The anxiety was crippling. I started questioning myself. Was I being too sensitive? Did I do something wrong? I couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew something was fundamentally broken in my social circle. The real bombshell dropped during a casual get-together with a newer friend, someone who wasn't part of my original group. We were talking about work, and I mentioned a project I was proud of. She looked at me with this strange, pitying expression and said, "Wow, that's not what Jenna told me at all." My heart sank. I asked her what she meant. Hesitantly, she revealed that Jenna had been telling people I was struggling, that I was faking my success, and that I was deeply unhappy and unstable. She had woven this elaborate narrative of me being a pathetic, dishonest person who needed to be saved. It was like a punch to the gut. The person I trusted most in the world was systematically poisoning every one of my relationships. She wasn't just gossiping. She was assassinating my character. The pieces all clicked into place. The weird looks, the canceled plans, the sudden silence. It was all her. She was orchestrating this entire campaign from the shadows, playing the role of the concerned friend while simultaneously being the source of the poison. I felt a mix of pure rage and profound heartbreak. This wasn't a friend. This was an enemy disguised as one. I spent the next few days in a daze, just processing the sheer scale of her betrayal. I went back through years of our conversations, our text messages. The signs were all there, hidden in plain sight. Her backhanded compliments, the way she'd subtly downplay my achievements while talking up her own, her helpful advice that always seemed to plant seeds of doubt in my mind. She was a master manipulator, and I had been her willing audience for years. The hardest part was realizing she had targeted the people who mattered most to me. She went to our closest friends, to my new colleagues, even to a guy I had just started dating. She fed them all the same story, that I was fragile, that I was a liar, and that they needed to be careful around me. She used the secrets I had shared with her in confidence as weapons, twisting my vulnerabilities into character flaws. It was a strategic, calculated attack designed to isolate me completely. For a while, her plan worked. I felt completely alone. I started to believe some of the things she was saying. Maybe I was the problem. The gaslighting was so effective that I began to distrust my own reality. It's a terrifying place to be, when you can't even trust your own mind. I stopped going out. I ignored calls. I just wanted to disappear. The pain of her betrayal was so intense. It felt like a physical weight on my chest. But then, something shifted. It was a slow burn, but a fire started to light inside me. It started with anger. How dare she? How dare she try to define who I am? How dare she try to destroy my life out of her own insecurity and jealousy? That anger turned into resolve. I was not going to let her win. I was not going to let her lies become my truth. This was my life, my reputation, my story to tell, and I was going to take it back. So I started my own campaign, not one of smear or of revenge, but of truth. I decided I wasn't going to hide or be ashamed. I began reaching out, one by one, to the people she had spoken to. I didn't get angry or defensive. I just calmly and honestly told them my side of the story. I said, "I heard this is what you were told about me. It's not true. Here is what actually happened. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. It was humiliating to have to defend my own character. Some people didn't believe me. They were already too far under her spell, and that hurt. Losing those friends was a painful consequence of her actions. But others listened. They saw the sincerity in my eyes. They compared my story to her dramatic, over-the-top narrative, and they started to see the cracks in her facade. My friend who first told me what was happening became my biggest ally, backing me up and confirming the inconsistencies in Jenna's stories. The reckoning came at a mutual friend's birthday party. It was the first time Jenna and I were in the same room after I started speaking out. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. She tried to ignore me, to act like nothing was wrong. But people were watching. Throughout the night, I just lived my truth. I laughed with the friends who had stood by me. I talked openly about my projects and my happiness. I refused to be the sad, pathetic character she had painted me as. The final confrontation wasn't loud or dramatic. I pulled her aside, not to fight, but to set a boundary. I looked her in the eye and said, "Jenna, I know what you've been doing. I know the lies you've been telling. It's over. You have no more power over me. I'm taking my life back." The look on her face was not remorse. It was the shock of a puppet master who had just had her strings cut. She had nothing to say, because for the first time, she was face to face with the truth, and she couldn't manipulate it. Walking away from her that night felt like shedding a massive weight. I knew it wasn't the end of the fallout, but it was the end of her control over me. In the months that followed, her social circle began to shrink as more people saw her for who she truly was. The truth has a funny way of coming out eventually. This experience taught me so much. It taught me about the dark side of friendship and the destructive power of jealousy. But more importantly, it taught me about my own strength. It taught me that no one can define you but you. It's so easy to let someone else's narrative control your life, especially when you're feeling down. But you always have the power to take back the pen and write your own story. If you're going through something similar, please know that you are not alone, and it's not your fault. Do not let someone else's toxicity dim your light. Surround yourself with people who build you up, not tear you down. And most importantly, trust your gut. If a friendship feels draining and makes you question your own worth, it's probably not a real friendship. The journey to healing is long, but reclaiming your truth is the most empowering thing you can do. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please consider liking and subscribing for more content. See you next time.